Hello, everybody. It's me, Randy Ray, at Driftwood Ranch again, and I've got some more content for you where I don't hold up books over and over again throughout the video. So I was tagged last Wednesday by the lovely and brilliant Evening Reader, and she did two tags on a Wednesday. One of them was the this or that tag, and the other was the book title poem tag. She said I could do one or both. I'm going to do one. And the one I'm going to do is the this or that tag. Just because I like the prompts better and I don't feel like taking book titles and contorting them into poems. That's just me. The questions are real simple. It's this or that. So, I could probably finish this video in 3 minutes, but I could probably spend 30 minutes on it too, because as Steve Donahue pointed out to me the other day, I'm just another gas bag like him. So, the first question, paperback or hardback? I like hardback books now. When I was younger, I liked paperback books. Paperback books were cheaper and more portable, and I didn't have a problem reading small print in those days. Now, when I read a book, I want to feel something more substantial in my hands. Also, the books that I grew up reading in paperback were mass market paperbacks, which are basically meant to be disposable books. They just are. That's why you could, as a bookseller, you could tear the cover off and send the cover in and get your money back and just throw the book away. And that's a long story. I think it's really interesting. Maybe a topic for a future video. But no, the short answer is I prefer to read in hardback now. Also, my appreciation of books as physical objects increased quite a bit once I owned a bookstore and I became friends with a couple of rare booksellers. So yeah, hardcovers is where it's at for me. The next question is Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings? And the obvious answer to that question is Lord of the Rings. But I do have an interesting story about that, okay? So when my daughters were younger and I still owned my bookstore, we did reading time every night. And I started reading the Harry Potter books to them, and I read a chapter. And I was like, God, this is dull. And then I picked up my copy of The Lord of the Rings and read that to myself. And the difference in terms of the writing was just so dramatic, it wasn't even funny. It was just very obvious that J.R. Tolkien cares about words, cares about sentences, cares about paragraphs. And there was no detectable care for the language in that chapter of Harry Potter that I read, and I never went back to it. So I understand the books get better, but I didn't even finish the movie series either. Harry Potter I liked some of them. I liked the later ones. I never liked Chris Columbus as a director, though, even in his older films. Next question, real books or ebooks? I prefer real books. Again, it's the whole physical object thing. I do read ebooks occasionally. There are some things I really enjoy about ebooks. If the lights are out, like they were in that winter storm, you can still read on your Kindle if your battery is charged, but you can't read a book in the dark. You gotta have a light source. But also, I like being able to make that font size bigger. I never thought font size was going to be a deal for me. I guess I didn't think I was going to live this long. Next question, buying or borrowing? I prefer to buy my books. I'm not a fan of needing to remember to return things. Just not. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at remembering to return things. The people I loan books to, they're not good at remembering to return books to me either. And buying is kind of the same for me as checking something out of the library, because I don't keep all the books that I buy. At some point I sell them to recycled books, the wonderful used bookstore here in Denton, Texas, where I live. And so, it's like, to me, it's almost like a library that I'm paying a fee to use, but I can tell you my library fines would be more expensive than what I spend on books, promise you. Read in bed or in a chair? When I was younger, I read in a bed. Now I read in a chair. Mostly I sit on a love seat or a couch, but I do have a reading chair. I actually have a room in my house devoted to nothing but reading. But some people who know me would tell me every book in every room in my house is devoted to reading. So, but yeah, I sit in a chair nowadays. I don't have a good light source to read in bed. And I just feel like I don't know, once I lie down in bed, I start to get sleepy. It's too easy to convert to a nap. I was reading an abridged version of The Phantom of the Opera, the original novel, last night in bed. And, you know, the abridged version I was reading is only 60 pages long. I could have finished it in an hour if I hadn't been lying in bed. Next question, nonfiction or fiction. I probably read 80, 90% fiction, and then I do like nonfiction. I don't have a problem with it, especially like memoirs. When I was younger, I read a lot of self-help stuff. I'm really glad I grew out of that. I sometimes wish I'd grown out of it sooner, but hey, it takes what it takes, right? Print or audio? I prefer print books, but I do listen to audiobooks, especially when I'm driving. Once a month, I have to drive to a doctor's appointment that's an hour away. And, you know, it's funny, when I was younger, I would have never dreamed of listening to an audiobook on a drive, you know, because I was listening to classic rock, you know. Let's put in the, well, at the time I was a big Eric Clapton fan or Bruce Springsteen or whatever. I guess I still am. But now I listen to audiobooks. I think there's a fundamental difference between audiobooks and being read to and reading. And they both have their advantages and their disadvantage. You know, I'm not a print book snob, but I do think saying that audiobook is the same thing as reading, well, it's fundamentally different. You know, when you're reading, you're looking at words on a printed page and you're converting those words in your mind. An audiobook you're being read to. And that's fine. There's plenty of ways to experience a book. New books or old books? Wow, that's a tough question right there. Old books smell better. I don't know. I don't really have a preference between new books or old books. Probably old books, though, you know. Depending on how you define old. My kids probably think all I read are old books, but that's not true. I read a lot of new books, too. Short chapters or long chapters? You might think I would prefer long chapters, and I do like long novels, but I prefer short chapters. I prefer feeling like I've made some progress in terms of moving that bookmark forward, and I also like having a stopping place that makes sense for me. Stopping in the middle of a chapter, you know, I've got the file cabinet open in my brain, and I can figure out what's going on, but I still prefer to stop at the end of a chapter. You know, I love John Irving, for example, but one of the things I don't like about his novels is the chapters go on forever. Richard Kadri's book that I really enjoyed, Sandman Slim, doesn't even have chapter breaks at all. It's just one long story. I didn't like that, you know. So, yeah, anyway, short chapters. Anyway, this is fun. I'm going to tag some people in the comments. I'm still a little new to this whole tagging thing, but it's not rocket surgery, is it? Anyway, thank you for tagging me, Evening Reader. Evening Reader and I went to college at the same time and took a lot of the same classes. So it was really cool to get tagged by her the other day. I love Booktube. This is so great. And thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.